Hello, hello. Welcome to Healthy Perspectives, a podcast that takes on current cultural and social issues through a clinical lens. All right. Hello, hello. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate your time. And today, I want to talk about what they say versus reality. We are, as you know, knee deep into 2024 election season. And with that comes propaganda at a maximum. And I want to talk to you today about some of the things they're telling you. And I want to offer you a different vantage point. Obviously, you're smart. You know these other vantage points, but it's so easy to get caught up in the dysfunction that is propaganda. It's very easy because it comes like a storm. It's just fierce and it's unrelenting, and it pounds you and it pounds you and it pounds you until you're like, okay, I just got to address this. And if you get stuck on the things that the propaganda is telling you, then unfortunately you miss some things. So I'm gonna show you what I mean by that. But let's start with the things that they're telling us. All right. Now remember, before actually let me back up a tiny bit. Before we get into what they're telling us, you need to know this is not made up. This is social, cultural, psychological structure. The culture is always made up by the individuals. For instance, if you take the individuals out of the equation, there is no culture. It doesn't exist, which means the culture is dependent on the individual. The individual is not dependent on the culture. That was a really big statement. Let me say it again. The culture is always dependent on the individual, you and me, always, 100% of the time, because you can have an individual and no culture, but you cannot have a culture and no individual. Okay. That's a really important concept as we move forward, because the culture wants you to believe the election culture, the political culture. Now, here's the funny thing. Politics is a subsect of culture. It isn't even the whole thing. It's a subsect. Okay, so if you get those basic concepts, then we can move on and we can talk about what they're telling us in that subsect of culture, which, by the way, is created by the individuals, meaning we can change its course at any moment. You and me, we are the ones who get to decide. Now, you might be like, but there's so much corruption and I'm going to get to that. All right. I'm going to get to that. So first, what's being thrown at you the most, I think, right now, based on the things that I'm seeing. There's a few. Number one, the thing that's being thrown at you the most is the border issue. That's the most prevalent topic, Democrat, Republican, everybody wants to address it. Everybody wants to address it. Okay. We have done that already. I have a podcast, a clinical podcast that takes a look at the border issue. Go check it out if you want. I'm not going to spend much time on that here. The highlight for me today is understand that's what they're throwing at you as the critical issue. There are other critical issues that they are throwing at you. What they're trying to do is to find what sticks, what the individuals will rally around. Okay? Because that's how elections work. I'm not interested in the political aspect of this. I am interested in the psychological, sociological, and cultural aspects of this. And yes, politics is a piece of that. So I can't ignore it. If I ignore that, well, then I'm not doing what we've told you we're going to do here at Healthy Perspectives. We are going to address the very difficult cultural, social issues head on. That's what we're going to do. All right. Another thing that they're telling us, corruption. Now let's take a look at this. These first two that I gave you, they're designed for a single purpose. What's the purpose, folks? You're bright. You're smart people. You know, if when I say this, if you haven't been thinking it, you're going to know. The purpose of that is to divide you. They're trying to get you to go through one of two chutes. You are a herd of cattle to them. Nothing more. If they can get you to go through the Democrat chute, then the Democrats win. They get you to go through the Republican chute, the Republican Party wins. They are fighting for their party. They are not fighting for you and me. They are supposed to work for us. Because remember, the culture we have here is designed by the people. And what for? The people. But they're trying to make it different than that. Now, I'm telling you this purely from a sociological and cultural perspective. We'll definitely hit the psychological here. So hold on. They're telling you other things like climate, because they're trying to get these little groups to sort of go through their chute. They're telling you things about drugs. They're talking about the Supreme Court corruption, the Department of Justice corruption. They're funneling you to their chute. They're talking gender identity. They're talking women's rights, Black rights. They're talking gun violence. I'll give you an example. Until about the last 2 to 3 weeks, when was the last time you heard about Kyle Rittenhouse? But in the last couple of weeks, there hasn't, I mean, there's always gun violence going on somewhere, of course, in the world. But there hasn't been a major gun violent activity that sparked this. So why is it resurfacing? They're trying to get you to go through their chute. They are treating you and me like cattle. But we're not. We are not cattle. Just like when we say Biden's evil, Trump's evil. No, they're men. They're flawed men. They are aging men. Right now, Biden looks like a very old man who is deteriorating, being real. Like, you don't have to agree with me, but it's pretty simple to see. And I've months ago, like middle of 2023 somewhere, I did a podcast specifically on that because I could see it coming. And I'm not a medical professional. I'm a mental health guy. I was looking at the mental health deteriorations. You can go back and find it. It's in there. They're fighting for the Democrat Party or the Republican Party. And I am not here as a political entity. I am here as a clinical counselor that is trained, has done this for a very long time. And I want to tell you what's really important here. Number one, all of these things have value to you and to me. I'm not naive. Psychologically speaking, these things are important topics. Are they as important as we are being told? No. No, not one of them is as important as we are being told. Are they important? Yes. Are they as important as we are being told? No. Let me explain why. If there was a single episode, say, of something like a hurricane, and it went out broadcasted in our media, who is often irresponsible, frankly, to thousands of TVs and radios and screens, computer screens, thousands and thousands, millions. Then millions of people talk about this single event, and it sounds like it's really, really big. And it's not that it's not important. We have hurricanes pretty much every year. That's not new. But then they tie it to climate control, all kinds of other stuff so that they can boost the message, and boost the message. And by the time it's all said and done, just because of the frequency, the intensity, and the duration, three key elements in psychological experiences, because of the frequency, intensity, and the duration of the messaging, you and I could be convinced that this is happening all the time when it's not. So they're using that technique and that tactic, which is frankly what it is, to funnel you into a shoot, a Democrat or Republican shoot. They want to get you into their channel to get your vote. Is corruption a big deal? Absolutely. Is border security a big deal? Absolutely. But my question is, what aren't they telling us? What's the message you're not hearing? They are purposely dividing us. What they will not do is say, Biden's an old man and he's lived, a pretty interesting life. And he's not evil. He might not be a great dude, but he's not evil. They're not going to say that because it doesn't funnel you through their chute. Nobody's going to say to you, if they are in the Democratic chute, that Trump is not evil. They're not going to do that because that might create seeds of doubt about what? Their propaganda. Their propaganda. They cannot go against their propaganda, their messaging, because then you might get out of their chute and go into the other chute. At the end of the day, though, folks, the main thing they're not telling us is it's never been designed that we would only have two chutes to choose from. That's never been the design. You and I, psychologically, individually, could, honest to goodness, could say, I'm not going in either of those chutes. We could go into a third, a fourth, a fifth chute. Now, I'm not saying don't vote your conscience, your morality. They don't pay attention to these issues of borders, of corruption, of drugs, climate, gender identity. Look, definitely pay attention to them. But understand the game they are playing to put a pressure on you that isn't real. It's not real. What is real is you have autonomy. The culture, the political groups do not exist without you. Period. There is an old book. It's a leadership book about the Lakota tribe. It's a really, really cool book, in my opinion. It's one of the great books on leadership because it simplifies some things so much. And this is going to be my punchline for you today. The Lakota tribe, they believed some things about leadership that you should be aware of. And then one of the most basic tenets is if a leader is not going where the group thinks or where the individuals think it should go, the number one tool in your bag is to stop following. A leader without followers is very lonely. If what you're seeing is what you want, if you want to sow division, hatred, fear, well, then by all means, continue to go down whatever chute you're in. But if you want to sow unification, empathy, understanding, and care, maybe it's time to take a look and say, I'm not sure I want to go through either of those chutes unless they start looking for unification as the process. We could do that. You and I could do that. Just like the Lakota tribe taught all of their folks. There is another option. If you don't like where your leaders are going, stop following. I hope that this was clear, that it made sense, and that it moves you in a positive direction, an empowered direction to do what you think is good and right psychologically, morally, in your circle of friends, in your family, in your career and job relationships. Because if you do that, folks, we all win. We can recreate some unification, some care, and some kindness. And we could make our politicians do the same just by not following them if they won't. All right, on a side note, thank you so much for joining us. I got to remind you, I'm going to be out for a little bit, so you're going to see no podcasts dropping in the next week at least, possibly about a week and a half, depends on how all the travels go and all that kind of stuff. But I look forward to getting back. I hope to have some things to talk about when I return. Hopefully none of it is terrible, but sometimes things happen. And of course, we will always continue to address things with a healthy perspective and with culture, social, psychological topics being the focus of our attention. I appreciate your time, and I hope you have not just a wonderful day, but a wonderful week to week and a half while we're out. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. We appreciate our audience a lot, so we give you some simple ways to track us down. Please like, subscribe, and follow all the podcasts on different platforms, but you can also email us at healthyperspectives@protonmail.com, or you can check out our website at healthy-perspectives.com/podcast. It's a backward slash. So if you want to go to our landing page, if you go to healthy-perspectives.com, you'll still find us. You just got to click on the podcast button. Thank you so much.